I love your thesis, man. And I think that's going to help a lot of people. Okay, so let's think about, and you're not necessarily the expert in passive or active investments, but tell us a little bit about some of the things that come out of Invest Clearly, right? So give us some big, broad categories of, hey, I'm seeing these trends of kind of vetting mechanisms for GPs. So they need to be this thing, this thing. If they're not this thing, maybe you should stay away. Like, give us some just high level data that you've seen. And obviously this is not investment advice. This is just trying to understand some of the trends that you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one trend that we see among negative and positive reviews right now is communication. Investors that I talk to, and the unfortunate position that I'm in is I do talk to investors that are losing a ton of money, and the conversations suck, man. They suck. It's why we exist, though. So like, it's necessary conversations that I have to have, and it's again the byproduct of having the platform. But I will talk to investors that are looking at a total loss of capital, and their biggest concern is that they haven't heard from the GP. So that is a big focus.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, a podcast for purpose-led entrepreneurs looking to master the art of buying, selling, or optimizing small businesses. Your host, Chris Seegers, founder of Exceptional Companies and author of Selling Main Street, has over a decade of experience starting, buying, and leading successful businesses. He's here to guide you through the complex world of business transactions and growth. Each week, we dive deep with actionable insights, expert interviews, and real-world strategies to activate and equip you to live exceptionally and build exceptional businesses. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Here's your host, Chris Seegers.
Welcome to the Exceptional Companies Podcast, where we discuss how to buy, sell, or grow your business. I'm joined by a really interesting, fun guest today, Pat Zingarella. He and I were actually in a mastermind that was focused on mindset, and this was kind of COVID era, and I was always impressed. There was like 3 or 4 folks in that group, and I was always impressed by his drive, commitment to building an awesome life for his family, and entrepreneurial mindset. So, Pat, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Chris. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. It always is. So good to see you again, and glad to hear your family and business is thriving. So tell a little bit about yourself to the audience. So generally we start with the story, maybe a little bit of the purpose behind how you got into entrepreneurship. Tell us about Invest Clearly, what it is, what that journey has looked like, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it all did start in that mastermind where I was with. I mean, that's where everything started, and it started with the mindset and all of that. And interesting story, like you were one of my like wide-eye moments, right? I remember when I first talked to you, and I know you helped out my buddy Joel at one point, who's actually doing real well. But I remember talking with Joel. I got off the phone with you, and I was like, you mentioned something about like a $500 million deal or something like that, and I was like, why is this guy talking to me? Like, in what world? Or you were like comparing challenges to what I was being challenged with at that time, and I was working at W2 where I was doing like some small time sales consulting, and I was like, in what world are my challenges comparable to his right now? And like, why is he? It was the most down to earth conversation that like in that moment I was like, okay, this is really cool. This guy's awesome, and you spent a lot of time with me and my friend, and I'm really grateful for that. So just starting there, but like my background, I come from corporate America. I was in sales, got the entrepreneurial bug when I was there. I started with real estate. You know, I was prospecting all day, listening to the podcast, very quickly realized that the life I was living, although like fairly big for my mind at that time, there was much bigger out there, right? Much more possibility. That. And always had.
Can I pause there? Like how'd you get there? Because I'm coaching a lot of folks right now, and everybody's journey is so useful in helping other people understand how to break that, right? It's a lot of mindset barriers. Some of it is physical, but how did you actually kind of break free of that to say, hey, this is an awesome life. So our mission is activate and equip others to live exceptional lives. The difference between a good life and exceptional life is huge. And most people are living good lives in the US, but I'm like, no, like exceptional life, whatever your definition is, it's so much bigger. So walk us through kind of how you got to that point.
For sure. I mean, it was proximity without question, right? Is like, because to put things into perspective, before I left my W-2 job, I was making money based on OTE, on target earnings, my salary plus a potential commission that I should if I hit my quota. And so I remember getting like a 15K OTE raise, and I was like, this is awesome, I'm going to blow this out of the water anyways. And then I got in these mastermind groups, and I'm talking to these real estate guys, and they're making 15K a day. And I'm like, all right, like my perception of what is abundant has been limited to my environment. And I started getting around these people, and I started talking to them, and it was really just a factor of, I would say, decision and commitment than anything else. And I'm not saying that didn't come with fear and uncertainty and doubt and all of that, but when you start to see these proof points and you start to hear people talking about what's actually possible and how much bigger that is than what you're doing, like that world opens for you. So I would say, like, to sum that up, it would be like visibility through proximity. Like, what are people like Chris Seegers doing? And I remember it was Hemel at the time, and it was Lucas, who I got on the phone. The first guy I talked to owned 15 Five Guys franchises. And I was like, okay, like there's much more out there than what I'm doing today.
I love it, man. I think that proximity principle is so critical. And honestly, like when you start getting around people like that, it's not just a money thing. I think that's what people think is like, all right, success is this money thing. But there's a really wonderful writer. Actually, my favorite writer right now is a guy named Robin Sharma. And he's got a book that, oh man, I read through it the second time. I'm trying to remember. I think it's called like, I don't know. Anyways, I'll link it in the show notes. But he talks about really like wealth is not money. Right? Yeah. It's all the things in life. You could be morally bankrupt and be rich. You could have a bankrupt family where your kids don't want to hang out with you and be rich. But the whole point of an exceptional life is looking at people and saying, I not only want to be rich because I think it's a good tool that I can utilize to help other people flourish and my family flourish, but I also want to have a great marriage, and I want to have a great relationship with my kids, and I want to be healthy physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And when you get around those people, you not only see like not just the hustle and grind culture of like, hey, you should make as much money as you can, work as many hours as you can at the expense of everything else, because that's what you should do. You see this holistic view of what a really rich, exceptional life, how we would define it, looks. And that, I think for me, man, that Mindset Academy was so powerful because it expanded for me all the limiting beliefs that my parents are wonderful humans, but just every parent, including us, are imprinting certain things on our kids. Some very useful, some aren't. And some of them we don't even realize. And one of it was just kind of you should be happy. You should be happy and grateful that you were born in the United States, which I am. It's the greatest country in the world by far. But that's kind of enough. Like, you should do well and take care of your family, but you know, it's almost greedy to want more. Yeah. And so I think that mindset group allowed me to really just say, like, the business and wealth part, we've always done well, but like, man, what about these other things? Having the playtime and going on the fun adventures, which I didn't do well. I love that, man. So keep journeying forward. So you grow up and you've got maybe some limiting beliefs and you get around some people and then you're going down the entrepreneurial journey. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And before I even get to that point, I want to touch on what you just said, because I also experienced the alternative where I was around the people who was in that group where it was like money at all cost, which is what I thought. I didn't think I wanted money at all cost, but I wanted what this person had. And then got close to them, actually worked with them, saw the decisions they were making, why they were making it, and then like how obsessed they were over the pursuit of dollars. And I was like, I don't actually want that lifestyle, and like I'm unwilling to do these things to get them. And so, but like, my journey into the entrepreneurial side. So I left my job to go work for a commercial real estate investor that I actually met through this mastermind group. Long story short, can't get into too many details because of some legal things going on. The guy wasn't who he said he was. So, and then if you want to talk about like, what is it, law of attraction, or like, the things being out there, on my way to the work for this individual who ended up committing a ton of fraud, actually I got into a car accident on the way, like hit a deer, totaled a car. So it was like, I shouldn't have been going there. You know what I mean? It was like a wild concept to think about. Like I'm in the middle of the highway, and like I was uneasy. 3 things had already gone wrong. And then I'm literally on the phone with my wife, and she says, "Oh, be careful out there. Like there's deer." And the second she said that, I hit a deer.
Wow.
It was the most wild chain of events ever. And then the next day, like my property manager called me and was like, "Hey, I don't want to manage your buildings anymore because of this and this." It was during COVID. So it was like, "You have to take this over." So it was like another thing where it was like, "Hey, you need to turn around, right, and go handle your stuff." But I took it as like, I have to push through this adversity. This is adversity. I'm being challenged. I got to go for it. And,
Yeah.
all of that being said, that yes, I saw the abundance in terms of family and lifestyle and what's important, but I also saw the side that I didn't want to become, which was that like money, in pursuit of money for no other reason than dollars go up.
Let's pause there too, because I think that so we've had a lot of folks asking about mentoring.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big pieces. I'm like, hey, do not choose somebody because they're successful in one pillar of their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're really great at making money, but they're jerks and their family hates them, unless that's what you want for your future life to look like, that shouldn't be your mentor. And the individual you're talking about, and we won't name names, but he was in a bunch of other networks of mine. And I sat down with him to talk through real estate investing. And as he was going through this, I was like, this is not right. We've done too many deals. This can't be true. It's, like it's not rhyming. It's not rhyming how it should be. There's something off here. And I really just blew it off. I was like, well, we're not going to invest with them. This is not, not in our wheelhouse, but I think something's wrong anyways. But I had that gut instinct of like, something's off here. And I should have been a little bit more proactive probably with some of my network just to say, hey, yellow flag, not a red flag, but really like dive into this. So I think also the universe or God, in my view, like the deer hitting your car, the things like there's these signs that we really need to be quiet enough to slow down and say, hey, is this serving the way that I want to go? Are these people in alignment with my culture and my core values? Or is it just like I'm doing a money play? Because every partnership we've gotten into that was like, hey, we're doing this really for the money or financial impact has always gone poorly. So that's a great lesson to learn early on, honestly, and to share with our listeners.
100%. It was certainly eye-opening, but it led to Invest Clearly. Like I was able to share that experience with my network, but my network wasn't big enough and other people got hurt by this guy. And so like that was one of the triggers of Invest Clearly. Okay, and you were asking me about my journey. So so that's what happened. So I ended up coming back from that experience, and on my way back, started doing some sales consulting. One of my clients was digital marketing agency. Actually, do you know the guys at GenRev, Danny and Jonathan and those guys?
Yeah, I haven't caught up with them in a long time.
Yeah,
Hopefully
they're awesome. Well. So I was selling their services, and while I was selling their services, I was talking to a lot of these GPs, some that had real direct parallels to the experience I just had. You were rising in ranks and notoriety in certain masterminds, influencer-based roles, and maybe the real estate wasn't doing as well, but like they're still gassing up these masterminds. And then at the same time, I was considering becoming an LP, and I wanted to get more into investing myself, and I couldn't find reviews on GPs. It was very, very closed door. I couldn't find a directory of everyone that existed. I couldn't find a directory of deals that existed. And so my background in corporate America, I worked for a company that had something like that for the tech world. So I was familiar with it. I was familiar with the, objectivity of reviews and all of that. And so I sort of took my experience in the corporate world, my experience with that commercial real estate investor, and then a need I saw when I was selling it, GenRev for myself, and built Invest Clearly.
Nice. So give us the thesis, like the elevator pitch on Invest Clearly. What is it?
Sure.
What does it do? What's the problem that it solves in the marketplace?
For sure. So what Invest Clearly is, it's a directory and review site for real estate syndication operators, so like GPs. And so what we've built is effectively a directory with the mission of every GP that's ever existed will be on the site. And then LPs or investors have the ability to review those operators as long as they provide proof that they've actually invested with them. And so the mission here for the investor is more clarity, right? Like I put in my investment preferences, I get a short list of operators that match those investment preferences. I can then read reviews from investors that have proven to have experienced those operators to verify what I'm hearing either before or after I engage with them. The need in the market that it fills is this is a very regulated industry, but it's not transparent. And 100%. The industry is going through some troubles right now. Some people are in some hot water, and there's never really been a transparent place for these people to share their experiences in one spot. And so that's the goal, is like creating a safer investment ecosystem.
I love it, man, because the difference in our family office compared to most family offices, we're active operators. So we almost never, ever invest passively or as LPs. And we had a couple liquidity events, I think, in 2021. And I was like, all right, we need to get some things into some things. And we don't have any, active investments that we like right now. So we invested in 2 different funds, vetted, et cetera. And both of them have performed terribly. Yeah. One of them, I think there's probably some borderline fraud stuff going on, and we're working through that with some attorneys. And the other, just like, they just aren't that good at what they do. And I've always said, like, man, it's really, really hard to be a great operator, whether it be real estate, whether it be development, whether it be owning a business, and you've got to vet those operators hard. And during COVID and pre-COVID, for whatever reason, I think there was so much liquidity in the market. Any young, smart finance bro could say, hey, I'm raising a $50 million fund and I'm going to buy apartment complexes. And then when you asked them, well, have you ever done anything? No. Do you understand how to operate, hire, fire people, implement processes, create true value in the business? Not really, but like, I'm going to bring somebody in. Well, that's okay when the market's going up. But when things start getting harder, all of a sudden you're going to see the chinks in the armor with those folks that don't have the expertise. And a lot of people are going to get stung, man. I think there's a tail effect on the commercial space for sure, where people invested pretty blindly because they're like, we're going to make so much money and the market's going to go up forever. And now we're seeing, oh, those portfolios are performing terribly. Like, you should have just invested in the S&P 500. So I love your thesis, man. And I think that's going to help a lot of people. Okay, so let's think about, and you're not necessarily the expert in passive or active investments, but tell us a little bit about some of the things that come out of Invest Clearly, right? So give us some big, broad categories of, hey, I'm seeing these trends of kind of vetting mechanisms for GPs. So they need to be this thing. If they're not this thing, maybe you should stay away. Like, give us some just high level data that you've seen. And obviously this is not investment advice. This is just trying to understand some of the trends that you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. The number one trend that we see among negative and positive reviews right now is communication. Investors that I talk to, in the unfortunate position that I'm in, is I do talk to investors that are losing a ton of money, and the conversations suck, man. They suck. It's why we exist, though. So, like, it's necessary conversations that I have to have, and it's, again, the byproduct of having the platform. But I will talk to investors that are looking at a total loss of capital, and their biggest concern is that they haven't heard from the GP. So that is a big focus. And so people there, and on the other side of things, there are people who genuinely don't know if they're looking at a total loss. If they don't know what's going on, they just have to assume and write off because they can't get a hold of people. And what I'm seeing in the industry is trust, transparency, and communication is now being used as a marketing tool. For example, I think 2-3 years ago it was, passive income this, financial freedom that. Now it is trust and transparency. And so the biggest pain point of the market is now turning into a marketing tool in the market. And actually, I haven't talked about this much, but it's, and again, I can't knock the people for doing this. You have to create content and you have to market, but it's very difficult to validate if it is truly happening or if it's just influence and marketing and things like that. So that's the big one that I see is communication. It's all about communication. And we take, I would say, like we collect data on the experience, and some of the questions that we see or we ask are, okay, what was your experience like pre-investment? What is the communication like pre-investment? What is the communication like post-investment? And when you look at negative reviews, 1-star reviews, the pre-investment communication is at 5 stars. The post-investment communication is at 1. And so like that is the biggest pain point for investors right now is the communication.
I love that, man. And we're working on a fund right now in the oil and gas space, and that's spot on, right? Like, you need to have weekly updates, monthly calls, quarter. I mean, you need to over communicate. And I think that's something we had in our oil and gas company. We had a couple like pretty tough situations happen, like big situations. It could have been a breach of trust with investors. And we're like, hey, my partner, who's the CEO, he's just a wonderful human. He's like, I'm going to drive down there, sit down with our investors and say, this is what happened. It's really bad. This is how we're getting out of it. And, stick with us and we're going to get out of it. And they did. And now the asset's performing well. But if we would have just said, hey, we're just going to brush it under the rug or just not talk about it, even if they stuck with us through the fund, they would have lost our trust, or we would have lost their trust. Like you always got to be honest and just tell people. And look, like if you're an LP, you're an accredited investor, generally you're somewhat sophisticated and you understand like stuff is going to happen, good or bad. And the point of having a good operator is over a 3 to 5 year period, the good is going to far outweigh the bad. And those operators are going to figure out a way to win. And they will. If they're a good operator, they're going to figure out a way to win. And that's what we did in that situation. So
for sure. And that's being reflected in reviews too, is like, you know, there are negative reviews there are reviews where it is by and large a negative experience, but they're contextualizing that, hey, like these guys are doing their best, they're communicating effectively, and this is what I expect, and this is why I expect it. And I want to be super clear that like the purpose of our site is not to be the GP Reaper. Like that's not the purpose of this. It's quite the opposite. It's for great GPs to be found easily. And these reviews are not like, oh, hey, I had an overcooked burger, right? And I'm going to torch these people. It is very contextualized in that manner. Like, hey, this happened. This is how they communicated this. I value this experience that they came down here, sat down with me. I don't know the outcome of it, but here's what I think about this thing that happened. And it's very contextualized, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. But the reality is both on the LP and GP side, you want good vetting mechanisms. And I think also like the LP side needs to be vetted more effectively because we've had investors before where it's like, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's the risk. Here's where we're going. And then you get 9 months into it and they're like, well, this is not a fit. And it's like, hey guys, we already talked through this. This is what we're doing. This is where we're going. This is the exit. So I think like having some transparency just makes a better marriage for GPLPs.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like the point is investing well, making money, hopefully making outsized returns outside the market. And if a GP can't do that, honestly, if they can't provide either a better return or better tax benefits or something else to the investor, then they aren't providing value, over the S&P index, and they shouldn't be a GP. Like if you don't have a way to do that, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah. I just thought of one other trend that I'm seeing now that you mentioned oil and gas. I'm seeing a lot more interest in these, what I would say is like non-mainstream real estate. We're seeing a lot more requests and a lot more people bringing up these assets that have operations attached to them, like O&G. Obviously, it's like been around forever, but I'm seeing more and more people talk about it lately. Senior living is one that's going big. Really more focus on, industrial is not really balance sheet based. I'm sorry, operations based, but like less multifamily, more
for sure.
Like those types of assets in terms of maybe, I don't know about like sexiness, but like interest, like sparks of interest.
For sure.
That's
for sure.
Cool.
I mean, in small business acquisition, there's a ton of funds that are being generated over that. And I would say have a lot of caution when investing in those funds. It's the same thing, right? You have all these finance people that are really smart on the finance side that say, I can buy 5 HVAC companies and I can smash them together. And by smashing them together, we've created this value and we can market better, blah, blah, blah. And the reality is that does not happen. If you look at private equity historically, they don't do that well. They'll consolidate up to a point and then they'll exit. And then generally that portfolio doesn't perform well. So I would say like be very cautious and, use Invest Clearly or other platforms to make sure that you understand what you're doing, because there's people all the time, man, digitally or otherwise, that are sending me pitch decks on, it could be oil and gas. We know oil and gas, I would say, better than any group out there. Like we've done so many deals across the country, working interests, royalties, minerals, water rights, surface, all kinds of stuff. And people will send me decks and I'm like, I've never heard of these guys. I've never heard of this asset. It's in the middle of nowhere and they're taking all this risk. They're going to go drill some, wildcat or wells when there's tons of great leases you could buy that would be less de-risked. And they're going to raise money with people that don't actually understand the risk.
Yeah.
And are like, hey, I'm just getting great tax benefits or I'm whatever. And I'm like, man, that's just a disservice to those folks. So I would say always use an abundance of caution and find somebody that's invested in those asset classes and ask them, hey, who are the GPs that over the past 10 years have really served you well? And could you introduce me to them? So I love that.
Do you like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now and check out our website, www.excoadvisors.com. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Okay, let's switch a little bit. So Invest Clearly is really a mindset play, right? figuring out how to create a solution to a marketplace that's fragmented, that's not doing things correctly. What's been the biggest mindset shift you've had in 2025 that you're like, hey, whether it be in the business or personally or otherwise, that you'd share with the audience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest mindset is, if we think about the business, I'll tell you, like, family side, business side. With the business, I think my mindset is how big and important this could actually be. And I think there's a level of doubt and like blissful ignorance in entrepreneurship where it's like, you know, with complete certainty you have something, but you're also wildly unsure if you have something. And I think we've now hit like our traction and threshold where I'm starting to see like the actual impact and what this can be. And the conversations we're having as a leadership team are so much bigger than what we were having a year ago, where it's like people are using us and people are bringing us up organically and people are talking about us. And it's like, holy man, like this is actually could be something, you know? And like my biggest, I would say, this kind of spins off maybe a little bit less relevant to your question, but like when you start to think about that mindset journey, I think losing as an entrepreneur, you will lose the mindset journey way before you lose the execution journey. Like, I think it's easy to get here every single day, make the list of calls I have to make, send out the list of emails I have to make, execute on the plan. I think the hardest thing is continuing to believe that you're going to achieve what you're setting out to achieve through every aspect of adversity and doubt and uncertainty and insecurity that you have when things are going wrong in your life and you're seeing other people around you that like you were in your job, you used to outperform, that are having the big houses and going on the vacation, and you're sitting here and like your whole day is putting out fires. It's like, can you keep pushing forward? And I think I've finally realized that I'm sort of in this position where as long as we continue, we can't lose. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but like in my mind, I've now realized like we're building a marketplace, and the marketplace essentially is always compounding on itself, right? Like the marketplace is not like a SaaS product where you build it and you sell it and then it's one and done, right? And they decide to renew and does this work, does it deliver value? I think our marketplace, the more people use, the more value it gets. So it's like the place we're in right now is the lowest level of usability that will ever be on it. And so when you start to realize that and then you start to see it growing and you're just like, could be something. Like if we keep doing this right, we don't stop, this could be something. And I think even when you're maybe losing in other areas of life, maybe like, again, when you think about delayed gratification, like I'm not in the place where I want to live. I don't have what I want to have, but you know you're building towards something and you see that growth and you finally found that kind of thought process that pushes you forward through all of those doubts. And it's like, okay, this is worth it. This is going to happen. And so that's been my biggest mindset in the business. My biggest mindset change personally, I think goes back to the question you talked about, like, you know, the balance of what's most important in your life, because I don't buy this hustle culture stuff. Like, I don't buy it. Like, I don't buy does this take sacrifice? Yes. Like, does it take commitment? Yes. But there's not a world where I can't put my phone away and dedicate the time to my son that, you know, he needs. The hardest thing is not necessarily about the actual physical presence. It's the attention presence. And I struggled with that for a little while where, you know, I felt like I wasn't doing enough as a father and like internally, and it was very contradictory to what my wife felt, because my wife was like, you're doing this, you're always here, you're this is the other thing. And I think that a lot of times when I was present, I may be thinking of something else. And so like we had to hone in on that. And again, it was just like easy solution is to separate from devices, understand that this is the dedicated time with your family, and then after he goes to sleep, maybe you check what you need to check. And so for me, I always had that what's important, like priority list in check. I would say like physically, but I had to really refocus on my attention presence to kind of feel the way I wanted to away from my desk, if that makes sense. Was that like clear?
Yep, absolutely. And I think for us, we've got 3 kids, and we talk a lot about kids on the podcast because raising kids and running a business actually have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And I think it's that time that's dedicated, right? So time blocking in your business. You could work 12 hours a day in your business and be totally ineffective, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I'm just killing it. I'm working 70 hours or 60 or 80. And then I look at the output and I'm like, well, your actions aren't actually creating any sort of output. And it's the same way with raising kids. It's exactly what you said. It's not about like, hey, I need to spend 5 hours doing these incredible things with my kids. It's, hey, well, our kids go to school. So from 5:30 a.m. to 7:15 is me making breakfast, us talking, dedicated time, no phones, doing our devotion. And then when they get home, right, it's, 4:30, 4:45 to 8. And that's no phone. And honestly, I think that's it. Like, give your kids your time. Right. It's not some complicated thing where you have to do. Parents way over engineer where they're like, we got to do all the sports and all the things and they need all these opportunities and all this stuff. And I'm like, I think kids actually need less. Yeah. They just need less and more quiet with more important people. And that's what we focused on. I love that, man. That's such a good mindset shift. One of the mindset shifts I keep coming back to that I saw a Facebook post from somebody that was in their 20s that died of cancer. And those are always so powerful because it's like, all right, you're a week from dying and you shouldn't have died this early. And it was just all the things that are important. And I was brought back again to the past month has been just a lot of hard stuff. And I'm like, man, I really haven't been like enjoying the day. Yeah. I'm done with that. Like I'm starting today, I'm going to wake up and be so grateful to be in my house with my kids, go do work that I think is amazing work that helps and serves people. And even though some days it sucks and this bad thing happens or you don't sign the client or whatever, that's okay. Like I want to enjoy that journey. And I lost that a little bit. And when you see somebody that's young, that's like, hey, I'm about to die and none of the other stuff you think is important, just focus on this stuff. And that was a really good like mindset shift for me to come back and just say, hey, enjoy the summer. Like I live in Colorado, the greatest state I think to be in for the summer, and I've been too busy to enjoy it. So let me talk a little bit about AI is becoming more and more a topic of conversation. So specifically with GPs, LPs, utilizing Invest Clearly, how is AI being used tactically? And I don't mean like the overarching AI is coming and it's going to change everything and lose people jobs, but what's one like way that people have used this to be more effective at investing?
Yeah, so I actually had a couple people on the podcast recently that are using AI for underwriting. They're effectively training an LLM, right, or an AI tool, and they're uploading decks and pro formas and this, and that's their first layer of due diligence. And people are literally telling me that these AI models are catching 85% of what they don't like, and they may have to do the additional 15. And it takes a little while to train these to do it, right? You can't just say, analyze this, because all it's going to do is summarize what's in the deck. But if you start training it what to look for, the biggest one I think is, again, I don't know if I'm a big fan of this in capital raising, is I think people are trying to automate the raise process too much. I'm not a big fan of that because it's like, most of these retail investors, yes, you have the high net worth, you have the sophistication. A lot of people are working as hard as they possibly can to make this first investment, and they want to talk to a person, right? It's a relationship business, and I don't believe there are these advertisements out there that like, oh, create a $100 million capital raising funnel using AI. I don't believe that. I just don't believe it. I think there's a massive relationship aspect to this business where human element is critical and it should be valued. And I don't think that's going to work. But I'm a little.
That's very countercultural, man. So I appreciate that.
I'm fairly countercultural when it comes to AI to a certain degree. I think it's going to empower a lot of people, but I think it's going to be commoditized and mainstream just like everything else. And I don't think it's necessarily going to like certain jobs will probably be, But I've tried to use certain things, and I'm not I'm not a smart guy when it comes to technology. Flat out, I'm running a tech company, but I've got people around me that do that side of things. But like, I have attempted to create, like, I don't know, not like landing pages, sites, maybe like, supporting I don't even know what it's called. And I've created it and I've gotten it to a certain point. Like, now what? Like, I don't know how to like turn this on. Sure. I don't know how to maintain it. I don't know how to do anything. So I think like it'll increase productivity, but there's always going to be a certain aspect where you're going to need someone to do it. You know what I mean? That's at least how I feel. And I got a lot of exposure working in the tech world. at Gartner, and there was this thing called the hype cycle. It essentially measures the life cycle of technology all the way from its like initial idea to like mainstream adoption compared to media hype. Right. And
sure.
so like, where are we in the hype cycle? One point was the peak of inflated expectation. That's like AI is going to take over the world. We're all going to die. Right.
Yep.
And then you start going towards what's called like the trough of disillusionment. And what happens in between is like, okay, there's more consolidation in the place. Like people are actually starting to see real use cases that don't work. And I think we're going to slowly have that happen until everybody's using it. Maybe they don't know that they're using it. I compare it to like the spell check, right? Like,
sure.
like it's easy and it's productive and it makes your grammar better, but it's not like, you're not being replaced yet. I think it's empowering, copywriters and coders and things like that. But that's my thought.
Can I touch on two things that I think are really important? I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think you should only use AI. This is my personal opinion, how we run our business. We will only use AI to allow us to have more personal interactions with our clients.
Yeah.
More, not less, right? So when anybody's like, we're going to use AI so that we never have to email them and it's going to be AI bots answering the phone. I'm like, we're taking the opposite. I want to know my clients more. I only want AI and technology and automation to do the things that are important that my client never sees, that have to be done, that don't require a human, so that that human now has more time to actually physically sit down with a client and say, what are your goals? How do we achieve them? I think the other really important thing that you pointed out, so I interviewed a brilliant tech guy, Rob Thompson, who you should get to know. He's amazing, but he's an old school software programmer, owns a tech company, owns the largest Facebook group in Colorado, and is just like brilliant. Like he's just a brilliant dude. He's building this lead company. But as we talked about it, really, like the analogy that I came up with was, with AI, you need to be able to show your math, right? So think about math class, and you're like, hey, the answer is 19. And the teacher's like, how'd you get to that? And you're like, I don't know. I just know the answer is 19. Well, in the marketplace, soon people are going to be like, okay, Pat, you're telling me AI is doing all these great things with this LP-GP relationship, and show the math. Yeah. And if you can't show the math, they're going to say, no, thanks. Yeah. Right. If you're the person that's like, hey, we're using AIs to code this thing and that, I'm like, okay, well, when AI breaks whatever you're building with code, who can actually go through that code and tell me how to fix it? Well, AI can. I'm like, no, it can't. There needs to be somebody who understands how to show their math behind what they're doing. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are just like blindly building things on platforms. And I'm like, show me the math. They're like, I don't really know. I use this thing and this thing built this thing and that thing built this thing. And I'm like, okay, well, show me the math. If you had to build this thing binary, how would you do that? And they're like, I don't know. So at some point in time, I think that kind of topples. Let me ask you a different question. What have you loved most about all the conversations you've had with investors? Like I assume you just love it because that's your personality, but what are some patterns or things that you've just been like, man, I just love hearing this or learning about this or providing value here?
I'll tell you one thing is like one of our, I would say our like taglines or our purpose and here is, again, we say creating a safer investment ecosystem. It's LPs helping LPs, right? That's what we go for. And a lot of times it's like, I mean, no one really cares about helping other LPs. Like, am I taking this angle? There's a term for it. I can't think of it right now, but like, this is not it's bigger than me mission or anything like that. But it is, and that's what people are actually leaning into. And it's really cool because do people want to get out there and share negative experiences? Yes. Are they doing it to bash because they're angry and stuff? Some of them, right? But I can't incentivize reviews, right? Like I cannot force anyone. I can't gaslight anybody to write a review. And so when these people are sharing their reviews, it is for the greater good. And you're seeing like this community kind of come together, both good and bad, right? It's like, yeah, hey, I invested with this person. It's great. I want more people to know about them so they don't choose the bad person. It really is this like LP helping LP process, right? Is like, so that's what I think is really cool because eventually this scales well beyond my efforts of reaching out to people, asking for reviews, doing this. And it's just these people sharing it amongst each other to protect each other and to help each other and to grow the industry. And so I would say that's my favorite part about it. And in all honesty, like same thing with the mastermind group. I get to talk to cool people all the time, right? I get to talk to seriously big time GPs doing seriously big things. I get to talk to investors. I had somebody who I worked with recently who is just, she's awesome. She's like gassing us up to everybody, but she's worked with 45 different GPs. Like, that's wild. That's awesome. Really cool to get to that point. And so like I get to engage with these people and get in their minds again, to then expand the way I think is like this person who has taken 45 different GPs and maybe even multiple positions with each GP is spending time with me to create this platform. Like, it's clearly helping in some way. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we always say. And that's why, like, in the first interaction you and I had, and Tato and some of the other people in our group, if you're here to serve, you're going to be so successful, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just a humble person that's like, I'm here to learn, I'm here to serve, like every other person that's out there that has that same mindset is going to be attracted to you. I mean, there's a couple billionaires in our network that if I called them tomorrow, they'd answer the phone.
Yeah.
And not because I've done anything or they've done anything that merits that or it's transactional, but I just know they're good human beings and they're going to answer, hey, Chris, how can I help? Right? Like, it could be about anything, right? It could just be, hey, I need a parenting book because this is happening and you're a great parent. So I love that spirit of service. Okay, so let's wrap this thing up with a couple questions. Number one, because I'll forget about it sometimes, where can people find you and interact with you professionally? Should they just get on Invest Clearly? Are there other platforms? Like, where should they look for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. My email address is pat@investclearly.com. I literally talk to everyone. So if anyone wants a LPGP, anybody interested, feel free to reach out to me. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active. I post a lot of, really everything I post is summaries and analysis of what's going on in the platform versus like, hey, this is what I think. I really try not to share my opinion. I don't really have one. I just say, hey, this is based on everything I've seen.
This is what the data says. Yep.
Yeah. And then the website is investclearly.com if you want to check it out or play around on there.
I love it, man. Okay, so what about a tool, a book, a resource that's been a game changer last 90 days, 180 days, something that just like totally lit you up and you're like, I want the audience to know about this?
For sure. The book that really, I am what I would say, like, I'm an emotional person, right? I'm a very social, very emotional person. And I read The Let Them Theory, Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory, and I loved it. Like, me and my wife, essentially, like, I read it out loud to my wife when we would do things. And I react, I would say, like, I have like guttural reaction. I take things personally. I don't know if it's like for example, if someone is bashing Invest Clearly somewhere, oh, I don't trust them, whatever, like that'll rip me apart from the inside. And so like, I think really that book kind of helped temper how I react to things, both personally and professionally, at least like, you know, the initial reaction and how I think about kind of the external impact, the impacts of external things on my internal voice, I guess. And so I loved it.
That's so good, man. All right, let's close with this. So let's say you're talking to Pat and he's 10 years younger than you and you know what you know today. What's some wisdom you would give him or another young kind of blossoming, blooming entrepreneur that's got kind of a similar road ahead of him?
I would say exactly what I said before is like, just don't stop. Just don't stop and you'll be fine. Just keep going. Yeah.
Never stop, man. Keep it going. Pat, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We'll have you back again, but really appreciate your time and look forward to connecting soon.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, take care.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Exceptional Companies Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you liked this show, please reach out through our website, www.excoadvisors.com for free tools to order a copy of Selling Main Street or to sign up for our free webinar on how to sell your Main Street business.